Okay, here we are back with this angel kit. We are going to be starting the wings with color A, which is the white. We're going to make 2, although I'll probably only make the one, and probably the heart and the hair. We'll see how far we get. I'm not sure exactly how big the wings are supposed to be, but here's hoping we have enough. So we are going to chain 31. It says again that this is our right side where we're starting. So we are just going to chain 31, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and in each chain across, which is pretty simple. I did put in my last one that this might be a return. I'm not sure. When I opened the packaging, I did feel like the tape to the little baggie that held the fluff was dirty, and I wondered at that a little bit. And then the one skein of yarn wasn't wrapped the same as the others, and it does seem like maybe the amounts might, something doesn't seem quite right, but we're doing okay so far, and hopefully we'll have enough of everything. But even if I don't, hopefully it's just an oddity with my kit, and everyone else's kits will be fine. I'm not counting because I'm talking, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 31, 32, and I need 31. So take one out. Okay. Now just single crochet and second chain from the hook. So here is the loop on our hook. Here is the first chain from our hook. Here is the second chain from our hook. This is where we are going to do our single crochet into this one right here. So insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on hook, and just one of those in each chain across for this first row. So I'll be back. So here we are, end of this row. It says at the end of this row's instruction to turn. So there's my last stitch, and we're just gonna rotate my work. So now we'll be going back the other way. This is our wrong side facing us now, and it just wants us to chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch across. So I'm going to start here in this first one here. This is my chain that I just did. This is the loop of my hook, so I'm just going to under both loops of this stitch here, single crochet and single crochet in 1 in each stitch all the way across, like so. So I will be back. Okay, so I'm almost to the end of my row here, and we haven't really done much turn and chain work, I don't think, so far. So I wanted to show you real quick, just knowing where the end of your row is, where the end of the stitches are. Now you can, each row you're unsure, you can count all your stitches and check it against the stitch count at the end of the row, to double check. But like, just real quick, so in this instance, when you're working with wrong side facing you sometimes anyway, you see how my row of stitches, like I can see the stitches, the tops of the stitches that I just made well on this side, right? But in the same way, the tops of the stitches I can't see as well from the row we did before. So if I need to see, I just turn a little, but I just know they're both there and go under both of them. Now we are chaining when we're turning, but here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left in this row, and then this down here is our turning chain. So this loop here on the end here is not a stitch here, but this 1, 2, 3, 4 are the last 4 rows of, or last 4 stitches of this row. So 2, 3, and then this one here is 4, and then any loops after that, this here, not a stitch. And so that's the end of that row. And now we have, not counting the loop on our hook, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. Now, one thing about counting is if this little loop here confuses you because you don't know that that's your chain, your turning chain, counting won't be as much help because you're not sure whether to count that. So again, here on this end, this is our last stitch here, and then this loop and the other loop that goes with it, wherever the other half of it is our turning chain. So we don't work into those. Now our next step, okay, so row 3, at the end of row 4, it tells us just to turn. Something must have gone well for the boys. Just to turn, it doesn't say to chain. So we were working this way. Now I am just turning back the other way so we can work the other way. It does not say to chain 1. It says slip stitch across first 3 stitches. So that is with no chaining, 1, 2, and slip stitch again is just insert under both parts of the stitch unless it says otherwise. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop immediately through the loop on your hook. So that's 3 slip stitches. These get a little sometimes harder to count because they're so small. So let me show you right now. I just made 3, and we know that. So here is 1, here is 2, and here is 3. We have no chain this time. So you see how that's puffed out looking like our chain before, but this time we have no chain. So that's our first slip stitch there. Now it wants us to chain 1. So we will do so. Chain 1. Single crochet in the same stitch as the last slip stitch, okay, which is this one right here. You can see that my loops are around this stitch here. So we are going to single crochet into that same space, like so. Single crochet in the next 25. Now, when you have an instruction like this, you can, if you like, there's different ways you can handle it. You can count 25 across and place a stitch marker, so you know when to stop. You can just try to keep count as you go. You can just do some and then count. You could honestly subtract the stitches you've already done, figure out how many stitches you have left, and then subtract it from that end, and just know, oh, don't work in the last this many stitches. Or sometimes if you know that it's working on every stitch, like for instance, here it says leaving the last 2 stitches unworked. Well, now we know single crochet in each stitch across, just not the last 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And I will be back. Okay, so here we are. Last 2 stitches unworked. Again, this is our previous turning chain. And if you want to double check back here, this is our chain from when it told us to chain. And then it told us to single crochet in the same stitch and then the next 25. So chain, single crochet we don't count, then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 25. Now says turn. So here we go, back to the other way. Chain 1, single crochet in each stitch across. That is pretty self-explanatory. So there's our chain, here's our first stitch. We're going to single crochet 1 in this one and 1 in each stitch across. And then we will be back. So here we are almost at the end of this, and I believe what we're doing now, by the way, is shaping kind of like our wing tips. We'll probably go around the edges and do a little single crochet row or a slip stitch row to smooth this out. But here we have, our instruction is to chain 1 single crochet in each stitch across and then turn, right? Now, normally you would look at this and maybe think that that meant all the way down to here, right? Because technically these are stitches and that would be all the way across. But it does give us our stitch count, and it's 26 stitches. And as we know, we had 30 earlier, right? We cut it down by not working these and by slip stitching and chaining 1. So now this middle section consists of 26 stitches, right? I've done 22 and then 24, 26. So when it means each stitch across, in this case, it means across these 22, sort of this new row that we've started by chaining 1 and raising this up. So this is kind of like our new row of stitches here. So I'm gonna finish this one off. So you're not working all the way to the end of there. That's why having stitch counts, I like patterns that have stitch counts at the end. Okay. So we are going to turn. Now we have another row where we are doing the shaping. So we are going to again slip stitch in the first 3. So I like to make them not too tight. They can get very tight if you're not paying attention. I like to keep them a little bit looser so that in case we do have to work into them, and just so they're not pulled super tight, that we can do that. So 1, 2, 3 slip stitches, and then we're going to chain 1. So we're going to raise our row again. So this is like our little new row area where we're working. Single crochet in the same stitch as the slip stitch. So again, we have this stitch here where we already worked our slip stitch around. We're going back into there, single crochet, and then single crochet in the next 21, and then turn. So I'm just gonna count it out as I go, and I'll be back. Okay, so here we are at the end of that one. 21 left us with 2 unworked, which makes sense because that's what it left us with before. And now we are going to turn, and now it just wants us to chain 1 single crochet in each stitch across. And again, this is each stitch across of the row that we just created, so 22 stitches. Now if you're counting, and this is just something that has, when I was first starting out, you know, could confuse me now and then, how it says single crochet in the next 21. If you're counting your stitches in that row and you're like, why am I coming up with 22 stitches, you know, and you forget that it says 22 stitches at the end of the row. That first instruction has a single crochet that isn't counted in that stitch because it says to single crochet in the same place that we just did the slip stitch, and then it says single crochet 21. So that's 22 total. It seems kind of like an obvious thing, but sometimes when you're in there doing it and you're just looking at the number of things it's, you know, single crochets it told you to do, and then you're counting your row and you're not coming up with the same thing, it can be kind of confusing unless you remember to check your pattern. So let's make sure we got a good count here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. And now we have another decrease one. I mean, we'll have enough. I'm kind of surprised. Okay, so we're turning back the other way. We are not chaining this time. We are again slip stitching in the first 3. Now this one I find a little bit more difficult because usually you have a chain to keep your yarn, like, you know, you're not usually as able to lose the loop that's on your hook so easily because you have that chain in the in-between kind of helping you keep it on. But in this case, you just kind of want to be careful that you don't lose the loop on your hook. So 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitch, 3 slip stitch, and then the next 17. Oh wait, first in the same one as our slip stitch, and then the next 17. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, should be leaving 2 at the end, 17, turn. Now for rows 8 through 10, we are just going to chain 1, single crochet in each stitch across of this thing we got here, turn, chain 1, single crochet in each stitch across back for rows 8, 9, and 10. So I'll be back after those. Okay, so I haven't done rows 8 through 10 yet, but that's just because I remember this saying, make 2. You don't make 2. This pattern does have a couple of mistakes. First of all, we really don't have enough yarn for that, but this fasten off part, it tells us to have a section of color. Right? This is a way that you make bows a lot in crochet, where you have kind of like a rectangle-ish thing. You wrap the yarn around the middle to make the wings. There's no, yeah, you don't make 2 wings. I don't know why they say that. She's only got 1 wing on each side, and we're making, you don't make 2 wings. Just okay. All right, I'll be back. Okay, here we are at the end of row 10. We just worked 18 stitches across. So now we have this sort of step down on either side. My work wants to curl, but, and now we are fastening off. So I'm just gonna do a slip stitch right there, leaving a long tail for sewing. So although, well, okay, I'll leave a tail here. I was gonna say, if I just attach in the center, I don't really need a tail, but I'll use the tail down here as well. So I'll leave a tail, and then we'll have to weave this other end in. It says to cut a 4-inch piece of color A and wrap around the center of the wings, pulled tightly together like a bow. So I really don't know why it says to make 2, and the color issue, I'm thinking that there must have been some type of change with this pattern, and just not all the changes made it or something. So I'm going to, you could count your stitches. I'm just gonna fold this in half to find out where my middle is. And just for my own whatever, I guess, I'm gonna hook this through one of these stitches here so that it doesn't slide around, just because I feel like it. I like things to kind of be in the center. Now we ended on an even row. So now before you weave your ends in, say you are doing this and you lost count of your right side and wrong side, which in this case, does it say whether your right side? No, it doesn't specify with the wings. I would assume that right side faces away from the body and wrong side faces toward the body, but I guess I don't know for sure, because it could go either way. But say you lost count of your wrong side. Well, in a situation like this where you start on row 1, which is your right side, that means your odds are right side and your evens are wrong side. Here is my tail, which means we chained this way and then worked our first row going back this way and our other row going back this way. So the way we worked our first row, the direction we worked our first row, this side facing us, this is right side. So if you lose your right side, and it's set up like this. You can find it that way by figuring out, okay, remember that you chained one way and then you worked back. That's your row 1. So the way it was facing you when you would have worked back along the chain, which is this way, in this case is your row 1. So I'm gonna wrap this around like it says to. I'm gonna try to keep it from curling in on itself like it wants to. Okay, so that's not bad, I suppose. Now, I would think that this would be what you want to see from the back, and that this would be what you see from the front, because those want to curl the other way. So I'm going to go with what I said earlier, where right side is going to be what faces the out to the back. So if you're looking at it from the back, you're looking at right side, and wrong side will be what you sew up against the body. Okay, so I am going to tie these two together to secure them. Like that. And then these are the wings made. And we will probably just weave in the ends on our own time and set this aside and get started on the heart. So the heart, we decided, is face color. I haven't made my second arm yet. I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna have enough. I still don't think that this is light pink, but maybe it is. Okay, so we have color C, which is supposed to be light pink, but to me is this tan. And we're gonna find our end. We're gonna chain 4. So I'm gonna make my slip stitch, yarn around my thumb, take my working yarn, bring it through my loop, pull my tail, tighten down. You're gonna chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and then join with a slip stitch to the beginning chain 1 to form a ring. So I'm gonna slip, because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, that's our beginning chain. So we're gonna slip stitch to this, form a ring. Okay. We're gonna chain 2, 1, 2. Now this is just basically a list of instructions that we are doing all in the ring. So let me pull this apart a little bit. In this ring in here, okay, it doesn't say to do it in the chain, it says to do it in the ring. So we're gonna just be working into the center of this mess. We're gonna do 2 double crochet. So I'm gonna yarn over, I'm just gonna insert my hook into the center there, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. And then again, because we're doing 2 double crochet, now you can see that area better where we're working. So insert into there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the second 2 loops. Now 2 half doubles. Give me one moment, as this yarn got fussy when I was messing with it last time. Okay. 2 half doubles. So yarn over, insert into the center there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Do that one more time. Pull over all 3. Then 1 double crochet. 2 half double crochet. So 1, 2, you probably could do this with a magic ring. 2 double crochet. So we just did 2 half double. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, all in the ring, chain 2, 1, 2, and then slip stitch in ring. So insert into the ring, pull up our yarn, pull immediately through the yarn on my hook. Okay, fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. So we just did a slip stitch, so I'm just gonna pull that tight. And then we need to leave a tail for sewing. I don't know how this one got so jumbled. Oh, we got a little knot here where little tiny pieces of the thread have come off and wrapped around something. All right, hold on. I'm just gonna separate this out real quick. And I'm gonna trim some of this fuzz. And I'm gonna, here I can see the little threads that are holding those together that shouldn't be there, so I'll trim those out. Okay, anyway. Back to what I was doing, which was leaving a tail. And fastening off. So here is our heart. I'm gonna I can see the point down here, so I'm just shifting it around a little to try to get it toward the center. You could do this with a magic ring, I imagine, to kind of close that up a little, but probably what I'll do when I go to sew it on is I'll just probably take this little tail and just go through those stitches and just pull it a little tighter. I mean, actually I could just do it now. This one's a little bit shorter, so I'm gonna start already. Just to give it a little bit more of a heart look. And I want to be going inside of these loops, not, you know, through to the other side. So I don't want to be able to see my needle on that side. Okay, back up this way. Then I will just tighten this. I'll pull this to tighten it a little bit, like that, which isn't too bad. I want to come back this way a little bit, and then I will tie this one off and just weave it in a little. Okay, that's better. Let's see, so we'll go under here. I'm gonna hold on to this so it doesn't pull the whole thing through, because this is a shorter tail we're working with. Pull that in through. Tighten that down on the back here. And then just send this back through to weave the end in and then trim it. And that'll be this end woven in. Just to kind of give it a little bit of a nicer look. And when I go to work with this one, I'll just do that now as well, I suppose. I will first, instead of just starting to sew it, I'll just come through first, you know, around where the point should be going, and just bring the yarn to the back so that it reinforces the shape. Okay, so heart done, set aside for later. And this should be enough for the other arm. And now we will be working on the hair, which is a different type of instruction here. So front braid. So we need 12 18-inch or 45 centimeter lengths of color B. I did not bring a tape measure, so I will be back. Okay, I went and got a tape measure. So, with the unicorn, if our curls weren't all the same length, it didn't really matter. Now this though, they first of all need to cover a length of something on the head, so they need to be, you know, a minimum, but we also want them to be the same length as each other, although we can trim ends. Now sometimes if you're measuring yarn or something you made with yarn, it tells you to kind of like pull it straight a little or whatever. Now in this case, however you measure it, you should measure them all the same way. But since I know this has to be braided and I know it has a length of thing it wants to cover, I'm going to err on the side of not really pulling it tight or anything like that, and just kind of like letting it lay naturally. So that looks like sap, but we'll just try to put it behind the sap. So I'm going to take this and kind of leave it relaxed like that, and we want 18. Now, some people will say, oh, never measure, always measure every one against the tape. And I say, no, I don't have time for that. I refuse. So how many of these do we need? They need to be 18 inches. We need 12 of them. So what I'm going to do, because I know they can be a little bigger than necessary. I couldn't find my one with the nice button that rolls itself up. Okay. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And I'm gonna say, okay, it's 2, and then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm letting it hang so that it's just the weight of it hanging and not, you know, I'm not pulling on this. Okay, so we'll say this one now being 4, and I'll give it a little extra on the edges for cutting. So this one coming down, what are we at? That's 4, so this next one will be 5. Okay. So pulling it out, then letting it hang. Okay. That's what I think 6. So now I'll let the loop be up here so that we have that little extra to cut. Pull it out. So we're at 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will be 7. This is how I am doing this. This may not be the best way to do this, but I think it will be the quickest. I'm just being very careful each time that I'm pulling out first and then measuring the slack. I've lost count again, so let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, so we need 2 more. Nine. 10. I'll give us a little extra on that end. And then lay this out like so and say, yeah, about at 18. Now, why did I get you back out? I'm just gonna trim these edges. Trim these edges. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. 3 groups of 4 strands each. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Why do I not have enough? Because I counted 10, not 12. I can count. I can read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Yeah, I counted 10. It's all right. Everything's fine. We just need 2 more. Okay. Okay. There we go. Now, 3 groups of 4 strands each. So 1, 2, 3, 4. They lost one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Reminds me of Twizzlers Pull and Peel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, braid only the center, leaving 3 4-inch free on each end. 3 or 4 inches? Why is there 3? Maybe it means the 3 groups. So about 4 inches free on each end. So we're just kind of straighten these up a bit. Get them kind of lined up. Although this one looks really not lined up, and this is probably why you should always measure against the tape. But again, we don't got time for that. Okay, so we want about 4 inches of the end. So we're gonna be about here starting our braid. So it doesn't say necessarily, let's see, it just says braid only the center, leaving it free on each end. So I guess I'll just pinch this for now. I could just take one of these and wrap it around, but for now we'll just pinch it for now. So I'm gonna start like this because I'm using one hand pinching this. Okay. I think I am just gonna take one of these real quick and just loop it under itself and pull it tight just for now. And then, because I want to be able to braid a little tighter, so we'll tighten this down a little and braid this down. In case you don't know how to braid, you take right side over middle, which becomes your middle, left side over middle, right side over middle, left side over middle, right side over middle, left side over middle. I had a thought of doing like a fishtail or something. That would be fun. I know the end is bigger than this part, but we can redo that from the other side. We're gonna have to tie this off somehow, because braids don't just stay in by themselves. So we want 10 centimeters of this braided. Braid only the center. Oh wait, no, 10 centimeters is also what we're leaving. Okay, so we're just braiding until we have 4 inches left, basically. What is their solution for securing the ends of the braid? I guess it doesn't really have one. That's okay. We'll figure one out ourselves. Okay, so we're gonna measure and see about where we're gonna be stopping. An ant just fell on me from out of that tree. So about 4 inches. So we got a couple inches left. So about here is where we'll stop braiding. Now, as I'm braiding, I am pulling this tight. So even though I measured this loose, we'll get a little more length out of it by the fact that that's about maybe 2 more overs. That's about where we want to be. Okay, so now how to secure this. I think that I'm just going to take one of these and wrap it around real quick. And then loop it under itself while somebody works on something in the garage. I could have picked up my hook to make this easier and then just pull this back through that to make a little knot like so. And now we'll come back to this end and we'll undo this loose one that we did. We'll just tighten this up and then do the same thing over here. So I'm going to backtrack this a little bit so that we can tighten it. I'm doing this kind of backwards now, but that's okay. That looks like long enough on your end anyway. And then we'll take one of these. Wrap it around tight. Maybe this time I will get the hook. And then just pull that through. Okay. Ba-ba-da-ba. Ta-da! Where is our head? There is a bug flying around my face. Go away, please. Here is our head. Hi, excuse me. Can you get down? Oh yeah, this is long enough. Okay, cool. So now, Here, go on there. Okay, no. There. Okay, position the braid around the head and stitch in place. The fringe will be worked into the hair as you add fringe to the braid. Okay. So this is gonna go around here like this. I'm thinking maybe our braid, if anything, is too long. Okay, looks like it's decently up high and then comes around the back like this. So we're just going to, I suppose, stitch this on. Okay, so we need to sew this on here. I'm just kind of fitting this up, seeing where I want this to be, and I think there looks about good. Now I think that I'm going to get a couple stitch markers and try to kind of pin this a little. Stitch markers aren't, or these type anyway, aren't the greatest type for pinning things in place. But I suppose it's better than nothing. So I'm just gonna kind of I might not even actually latch that because I don't really think I need to. Let's see. And another one over here to just kind of keep that in the spot. Okay. So now I'm gonna get my needle and some more of the same color thread, and I'm going to sew this down. I am gonna start, I guess I'll start over here. Okay. Give it a check. Looks like that's about where we want it, I would think. Okay. And then let's see, I'm just going to, how do I want to do this? Do I want to do it from underneath? Or do I just want to do it through? I think we're going to try to do it from underneath. So I'm actually going to start on this side. And I'm going to come through here. And then I'm gonna pull up a length because I want it to work for going all the way, sewing all the way across. So then I'm gonna not get these twisted. And then I'm just gonna kind of catch a stitch under here like this, and then I'm gonna just catch another loop under here. I can tell this is going to be kind of tedious. And then just another loop down here. I'm sure I could come up and go through and come up and go through. That might affect our look a little bit. So I'm just doing it this way. Just kind of lifting this a little bit to get underneath it. Don't think it's going too bad. Let's see. So I'm kind of just going to keep doing this in the same way across. Just kind of catching a stitch underneath on either side. I'm turning my braid a little so that I can get under here. And I'm just going to keep working my way around and come back. Okay, so I'm almost done coming down this side. And I'm going to actually stop early here. And I'm not going to, because like looking at it, it definitely looks like it's attached like at least down to here. So I'm going to go that far. And then pause and get a look at what I'm doing next. Because it does say that the rest of the hair will just be like from this braid will just be added to the back. So I don't know exactly when they'll want this. Oh, how'd I do that? When they'll want this braid to end. Okay. So let's see. I think one more. Since this opening is so large on these needles they provide, I do tend to have my yarn slip out on me. Mine are a little smaller. Okay, let's see. Maybe we'll go under here and under here. Okay. Okay, so let's take the stitch marker out. Okay, the free ends will be worked into the hair as you add the fringe to the braid. So it doesn't really show us exactly where to stop or as far as the free ends. I'm gonna trim this end over here. And I'm actually going to back it out a couple stitches. Don't mind whatever that tool is. Make a noise. So that it's kind of on par. It looks like this one's a little further forward than this one, but that's okay. So maybe we'll take out one more. Okay. Now, we're to cut the remaining yarn into 60 18-inch lengths. So we've already done the 18 length things before, so I'm just going to get those cut and I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut the rest of my yarn into the strips. I measured each one against the tape measure laid out, like I did the first one. And I took out a couple more stitches on either side here that were holding the braid down. And I definitely do not have 60. I put them in piles of 10. I have 45. So this yarn has about, I would say, 3 inches of stretch. From when I was measuring earlier, like measuring it loose, it came to about 18. But when I pulled it tight and measured it, it came to about 21. So even so I did the math. So like if I lay this here, this is 18 loose, and then pulled tight. All right, you stop that. Pulled tight, you gain, you know, about 3 inches. So I did the math, and you still only get, out of the length I had remaining, about 52. So you're not getting 60 either way. But what we have learned, and remember I measured for the braid a little looser as well. So I would say do tighten this up a little when you measure it, because it didn't specify in the pattern, so I erred on the side of doing it loose. So pull it a little tight when you're cutting. And either way, I'll just put less in each stitch, in each piece of hair across. So I haven't tied down the ends here yet, because I'll do that after I do this next part. So now it says attach 4 strands as fringe to the outside strand of yarn on the braid. So I am probably, like, some of this braid is probably I'm probably will undo and move this up and work that into the hair in the bottom. So I'm not going to do obviously all the way down to here adding the hair. I don't need to. Looking at it, I'm thinking around this area is where I'll start. I'll throw some stitch markers in there, and then I'll just count the number of stitches in between there, and I will then divide how many I have. I think this one, strands I have by stitches I need them worked into, to decide how many I'll put in each one. And this one. Okay, so we'll say that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, technically 21. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go with 20. So I'm just gonna work in the one above this one, since that one was kind of low on this end anyway. I'll just move this up one, because then that gives me 2.25 strands per piece of braid. So I will do 2 in the first 3 and then 3 in the 4th. So what we're going to do is attach these with the fringe method to the outside strand of yarn on the braid. So basically just this strand right here, this one, just the outermost one across. The fringe method is not difficult. So I suppose I could sit and break these into pairs of 2s and 3s, and maybe I should, but either way, it's basically all that you do to do the fringe method is you're just going to insert under the outermost loop of that piece of braid. You're going to catch, oh wow, Don't mind me, just literally using the wrong end of the hook. Okay, so fringe method, insert under the outermost loop there, catch your yarn on your hook, pull it through, pull it up a little so there's space, and then we're just gonna take all these through those loops and pull it out and tighten it down like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep doing this across. Now if you got 60, you'll be doing just 4 into each of these like it says. You might have trouble with this hook with doing 4. You might need to use your hands. I'll do one that way. But if you didn't get 60, you can just take your number of strands, count your number of stitches that you're going to be, edges that you're going to be working into, and divide the number of strands you have by the number of stitches to get how many stitches per strand. I got a fraction, but I got it in a quarter fraction, so I'm going to be doing 3 with 2 because I got like 2 1/4. So I'll do 3 stitches with 2 and then 1 stitch with 3 in it. And I did the math, and that'll work out to me using my 45. So if you want to use, like if the hook is kind of difficult to use for this after this first part, and you kind of want them to be even-ish, you can just pull that up pretty far, because if you're using 4 strands, it might be hard to grab them all with the hook and just grab them and pull them through. And it's not like you can't readjust this once you tighten it down if they're not even, but having them just be even as you go in will make it easier. So I'm just gonna keep doing this down the length of my hair, just grabbing this outermost edge, not the full part of the braid, just the outermost edge, taking my strands and lining them up, pulling them through that strand, and then pulling them all through those loops all the way through and tightening it down. Now I'm doing it this way because that's the way that's facing me. Like I'm entering this way. If you entered up, it would look like this on that end. So I'm doing it this way. I think it looks nice this way. And I'm just gonna keep working on this all the way down while I throw this around. And then I will be back. Okay, so here are my attached hair pieces, and now with these in, I'm going to back up my braids sewed down a little further and then re-sew them a little to kind of put them more, shape them more back a little now that I see how the hair is gonna lay. And then I will undo these, retie it up here, and I will add the rest of that hair to the rest of the hair for the braid. Okay, I braided this down. Well, I fiddled with it for a while to figure out what the best course of action was. And I braided it together, including the ends of my strands. And I have pulled up this front a bit to give it that little puff. And I think that that is not bad. And so I have this piece of yarn, and I'm gonna try to tie this down. Now, the pieces at the end of our yarn were supposed to be like where our braid ended, 4 inches, and these strands are basically supposed to be 18 divided by 2, so 9. So they're not supposed to be the same length. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a couple of inches coming down from the head, but not 5. So I'm not really, I don't know if you're supposed to trim all the rest of the length to match it or what, but because it says to include them, but they shouldn't be the same length, and they're not. So maybe we'll trim the rest of the braid to match it. But in the meantime, we're gonna try to tie this down. I just brought it around the front, and because it's a shorter length, I just twisted it like that so that I could tighten it without losing hold of it, and I'm not just wrapping it around. And we're just gonna try to knot this. Okay, it's good enough for now, I suppose. So here we are. You can see some of the short ends in there from the sides. Maybe I'll trim this all to match it and tie that better with a piece that I trim, because it doesn't look like the braid is very long. You can see the end of it right there. That's not as long as the 9 inches braided would be. So maybe I'll do that and secure that better with one of the pieces that I trim. But either way, I think that looks all right. And then it's just the assembly. So we'll get started on that. Okay, so I am working on the other arm before I do the assembly. And I am almost out of yarn. I definitely am not going to have enough to finish. I'm on row 12 out of 20. So I don't really know. This kit, it really doesn't seem like it is all together like it should be. So this is how much of the, after finishing that, this is how much of this light yarn I had left, which isn't very much. Just for comparison, this is the remainder of the unicorn kit, and this is how much I had left of each of those yarns. I'm just going to use this white to continue doing this, by the way. But it does just seem kind of like that. I'm not really sure that something wasn't quite maybe right with this kit, or because the white wasn't even a color that I could use. You know, it's not like how with the hair where I was measuring it and could have cut a wrong size. You know, it was just doing the rows, doing the stitches for the body and the arms and the wings. Now we did have that thing where some things were labeled a color that didn't make sense or we didn't have, but that wasn't even involving the white, which is color A. So anyway, yeah, that's just what I wanted to point out. If yours, I hope it's just this kit and the rest have enough. If yours doesn't have enough, I guess you'll have to get some yarn, worsted weight white yarn. I would, if you do have to, I would take it with you, a piece of it, to the store to make sure you get one that's like the same size, same shade. But yeah, that's where we are with this, and so I just wanted to let you know, and I'll be back. Okay, so I finished the arm. I do still wonder about the amount of stuffing. I might take some stuffing from the unicorn kit. Like I said, I'm not sure. I think this might have been a return, but I don't really know. Hopefully your kit has everything you need. I am going to trim this hair. I do wish that they had just, if you were going to trim it and make it be that short on the body, just said to make the pieces shorter and not kind of wasted all this length of yarn. Personally, I kind of hate wasting yarn. So that is just a preference. But I am going to trim this across. And there we go. Now, so sew head to top of body is the first thing. So I don't want this to be right in the front, so I'm gonna position this join seam toward the back. It seems like this will stand up okay even if I don't add some more stuffing, but I would prefer to add some more stuffing, so I'm gonna get some from the unicorn kit. Okay, so like I said, it looks like that this would hold this and would support the neck even without doing this, but it will just make me feel a bit better. So we're just gonna do that, set that aside, and get to sewing this on as soon as we figure out where we put our needle. Maybe we'll take that from the unicorn kit too. Or a unicorn kit. Okay. So we're just gonna lay this on here. Kind of try to keep it on there straight and even. Again, this is not my strongest suit, but if there are any, by the way, if you have any little hangnails or rough parts on your nail and you're dealing with yarn, it'll find it. So let's see, I'm just going to, I think, just kind of mattress stitch around. So we're going to go up, in, and over. And then we are going to come down through the top of the stitch, over, back up. Then we are going to go straight up and over, come back out. Then we are going to come straight down into that stitch. Across, up, and over. Okay, straight down. Straight up, over. Now let's do a check. Tighten this up a little. Looks like we're still doing okay. So straight down and up through the next one. I'm trying to just catch some of those threads in the stitch, you know, as I go by. So up, over, straight down, you on there good. Yeah, looks okay to me still. Although it always does until I actually am done and sit back, and then I'm like, wow, how did I not notice that this was looking so awful? It's a mystery. So we're almost back around, and there's really not much assembly with this one. Okay, so straight up, in, and over, straight down, over, up, and we are back to the beginning. So this will be our last one here. And we'll come in and come under here. Now before we tie that off, we will take a look, fluff her hair up again because we held it down while we were doing that. Okay. Okay, not bad. So I'm going to tie this end off. And then next we're just going to sew on the arms. So I'm just going to go under a stitch here nearby and just bring my needle back through the loop that I made. Pull it down to tighten really well. And then weave it through a couple of stitches here across the back just to secure that end a bit, and then I'm just going to feed this through the body, bring my needle out elsewhere, pull that so that when I cut it the end goes back in, and there we go. Now arm number, the first one. So here's my join seam. I'm going to try to place that so that it's facing the inside. Now this didn't say to close, like to fold and close this seam. And it doesn't say anything other than just to sew on the arm. So we're left to kind of figure out exactly, like sometimes you end up sewing things on kind of like this because you close that seam. Sometimes you end up sewing things on kind of like this. If we take a look at it, it looks like they sew, to me, it's hard to tell. It's not a great angle. Honestly, we could do either. And just flattening the seam and sewing it on is, I think, easier. So maybe we'll just go with that rather than trying to do it this way around. So I'm gonna just flatten this seam up here at the top, and then I'm just gonna come through these stitches just a couple times real quick to close it, even though we'll be effectively doing the same exact thing as we sew it on. And then let's see, position this just up here close to the neck. It does look actually rather close to the neck. It looks like it's almost right up at the neck. So we'll do it up pretty far. And I think we are just going to do kind of a, I guess, what am I thinking, a whip stitch. So we're just gonna go around like that, come through. And then we're gonna go back here, we're gonna catch the yarn, and then we're gonna come through those stitches and pull it tight like that. So then I'm gonna go back again, I'm gonna catch, come through, catch, and then come through. Let's see how this is looking. I think not bad. So this one will be like, what, right here? I think that's looking fine. And then let's see, it's right here. One thing that is nice about the flexible needles is that you can kind of manipulate them around to where you want them to go. And then I kind of feel like that first corner needs another stitch, so I'm going to bring this yarn back to the front and catch this first corner and go back in. And we're not going to tie that off right now in case we need to move them. I usually need to move things during this stage, especially things like arms. Okay, so here's our join seam. So we are just going to flatten this so where the join seam will be inside, and we're just going to do the same thing with this arm on the other side. So I will try to position it so that I don't have to move anything. That would be ideal. Let's see. That looks like it's in the right spot, right? Does it? If I hold it by the arms? Yeah, that looks maybe a little bit forward. Good? Okay, we're gonna try to go with right here. So I'm just gonna try to sew this on, same way I did the other one, and I'll be back. Okay. I think that looks okay. I think this one might be a little bit further forward, but it's hard to tell. And it looks okay to me. So I'm going to tie off these ends and weave them in. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did with tying the head on to both of these, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now it's time to sew on the wings. Kind of wish we had done that before the hair, but so I got my wings right here, and I have my tail here to sew them on. So looking at this, I'm thinking I'll weave those ends in, but I'm thinking I'll probably use these to secure it basically in place where I want it to be. So I will take the hook and go under this stitch here and grab this yarn and pull it through, and then tie this. Twice, and then just feed those ends into the body, which I'll do in a moment. And I'll also weave this tail in, and then I'll have to feed this over a little to where we can start sewing on, and then I'll start sewing. So I'll be back once I've fed those through and woven that tail in. Okay, so ends are woven in. Now you could, if you wanted, you could like tack up here to this part of the shoulder. Like, you can kind of decide how extensively you're gonna sew this on. You could sew up here to like the very top of the shoulder. You could just do a couple of stitches along here, in between here and the body, just to keep it there. I think that I'm probably going to do it where I just do some along the body. As for this curl, there are ways to make yarn, worked yarn, lay the way you want it to. There's different methods. There's spray, like, and there's like blocking, like basically getting it wet and holding it, pressing it into place or whatever. I'm mostly just gonna fiddle with it and hope it does what I want it to. So, I'm gonna work this on this side, this way some. So I'm just gonna slide along here, come out further down. Let's see, is that far enough? A little bit more. And I'm just gonna do a couple stitches here and see how that helps this hold on. So I'm gonna fold the wing this way, and then I'm just gonna come down into here and sort of just mattress stitch my way up, trying not to go fully through both layers of the wing, even though it is white on white, so it won't show that well. I'm gonna make an attempt and just kind of work my way up here. think we're almost to the top. Rethread this. Okay. And I'm going to take this all the way up to the neck. Okay. Let's see, one more here. One more here. Okay, we unfold that, tighten that a little. That's not bad. I'm gonna try to just a little loosen this just a little so that it's a little more. Okay. Now I probably will I do one to the shoulder? I don't think I will. I might do something to stiffen this later, but I don't think I'm going to do one to the shoulder. Or maybe I will. Alright, fine, we will. Okay, so I'm going to now just thread this through here and work it down a little bit to get it where I want it to be. Which is, I want it to attach basically right here to right here. So come down a little lower. And then we're just going to catch this stitch and catch this stitch, I think. Yeah. And then back through there. Now I'm just going to run along the back through the, I have it under the fabric of the angel on this side. I'm going to come to this side. Okay. And I'm going to now do the same thing on this side. Okay, so here are my wings. I think that they're decently centered. I do think I'm a little off to the side, just a little. And I probably will, maybe I'll spray these and kind of pin them where I want them, or, you know, they make like stiffening spray or what have you. And I'll probably do something along those lines. But in the meantime, let's get this tied down. And then all we have left is the heart. And then as far as the pattern goes, she'll be done. So lay the wings out. Kind of try to encourage them to do what I want them to do. Definitely gonna have to do something to them if I want them to behave themselves. And then the heart wants to be sewn on the right front. This should be pretty straightforward. We are just gonna basically go around. So I'll go in and I'll come out. And this is really, this doesn't have to be precise. It's kind of up to you stylistically. So I'm gonna just come up under these stitches like this. And then I'm going to go under the next stitch. Although in that case, that was the same stitch, so don't mind me. And then just catch a little bit underneath there, like that. and then just up into the stitch, and then down. I'll catch a little bit of yarn and come up through the next one. Then I'll go down through the next one. Come up through the next one. Around. Now this one, I'm going to kind of pull down a little, and I'm going to catch this here a little bit lower down, and I'm going to come up through the same one just to encourage the shape, the heart shape. Then I'm going to grab a little bit, come up through this one, down through this one, grab a little bit of something, and then this one's wanting to curl in on us, but I'm gonna go through that one. And that brings us basically back around to the front. This looks like it could be attached though, so I'm gonna go in here, and I'm just gonna go in and come down to pull that in. So that doesn't look too bad. And now I am just going to catch a thread under here, like inside like this, and tie that off, pull it down tight. There we go. And then I will I'll weave this in a little bit around under the stitches that I did, just to give us some weaving and security. And then I will just take this inside the body, like that. So that is it. Here it is. Not too bad, I think. Comparison. So here's the back. Now, I do think that there were some issues with this kit. There were some mistakes in the pattern. Maybe a problem with the amount of yarn given. I don't know whether you'll have any problems with yours, but this one was a little bit more fussy to deal with. But I will probably do something to adjust the wings and to have them lay nicely. And if I do that, I'll probably just do a short showing what that looks like. But as for now, here is Hope. She is all done, and I hope this helps, and I will see y'all next time.